Story is titled, My Roommate Rented Out My Bedroom on Airbnb while I was away, so I moved out and left her with the lease. My name is Elena. I'm 27 years old, and I live, or should I say lived, in a small apartment in Portland, Oregon. After college, I moved into a two-bedroom apartment with my roommate, Vanessa. At first, she seemed perfect, friendly, talkative, and clean. We met through a mutual friend, and since rent was expensive, sharing a place felt like the right move. The first 6 months were fine. We had our ups and downs like any roommates, but nothing too serious. Vanessa worked as a freelance graphic designer, so she was home a lot. Meanwhile, I worked in marketing and my days were long and exhausting. It was a good arrangement until everything changed. Last summer, I planned a 2-week trip to New York to visit my older sister and her family. I was looking forward to it. Some time away from work, hanging out with my adorable niece, and relaxing in a new environment. Before leaving, I made sure my room was spotless, locked up anything valuable in a small safe, and reminded Vanessa to water my plants while I was away. Little did I know, I was about to come home to one of the most shocking betrayals I'd ever experienced. The first red flag appeared while I was in New York. It was late one evening when I received an unexpected text from a coworker who lived nearby. "Hey Elena," it read. "I thought you were out of town. I saw someone going into your apartment with a suitcase earlier." I froze. "What do you mean, a suitcase?" I quickly typed back. My coworker responded, "Not sure. It was a guy I didn't recognize. Just thought it was weird." My stomach dropped. I immediately called Vanessa. "Hey Vanessa," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Did someone come over to the apartment today?" There was a long pause. "Oh, yeah," she finally said. "I had a friend visiting. Don't worry, though. They didn't go into your room or anything." Something about her tone felt off, but I didn't push it. Maybe I was overthinking. Or maybe I just didn't want to believe my trusted roommate could do anything shady. Fast forward to 2 weeks later. I returned to Portland late at night, exhausted, but glad to be home. I unlocked the door, I dragged my suitcase inside, and headed straight to my room. The moment I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. My bed wasn't made, and there was a faint smell of cleaning products in the air. But the kicker? A crumpled receipt from a nearby coffee shop lying on my nightstand, dated from the day before. My heart started racing. I yanked open my closet and checked the safe. Thankfully, my valuables were still there. But the idea that someone had been in my room while I was gone made my skin crawl. The next morning, I confronted Vanessa. "Vanessa," I said, holding up the coffee shop receipt, "did you have someone stay in my room while I was gone?" Her face flushed and she stammered. "Okay, don't freak out," she said, trying to smile. "But I might have rented out your room on Airbnb while you were away." I stared at her, stunned. "You rented out my bedroom? To a stranger? It's not a big deal." She said quickly, "You weren't using it, and I thought, why not make some extra cash? I cleaned up afterward. No harm done, right?" "No harm done?" I repeated, my voice rising. "Vanessa, that's my personal space. My bed, my things. You had no right to do that." She crossed her arms defensively. "You weren't even here, Elena. It's not like they touched your stuff, and I could really use the money. Freelancing has been slow lately." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She didn't even seem sorry. To her, it was no big deal, just a way to make extra cash. But to me, it was a complete violation of trust. Over the next few days, I tried to process what had happened. I thought about all the times I had been considerate of Vanessa, paying my half of the rent on time, cleaning up after myself, even buying extra groceries when she said she was short on money. And this was how she repaid me? The final straw came when I found out she had made over $500 renting out my room. I discovered an Airbnb listing for a cozy bedroom in Portland apartment, with pictures of my furniture, my decorations, and even my favorite throw blanket draped over the bed. That's when I knew I had to get out. The moment I saw my room on Airbnb, I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. It wasn't just that Vanessa had rented out my personal space without asking, it was the audacity of advertising it as her own, complete with glowing reviews from strangers. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I started making a plan. I wasn't going to let this slide, but I also wasn't about to stay in that apartment another day longer than I had to. I needed to leave, and I needed to do it in a way that made it clear I wasn't going to tolerate being disrespected. The next day, I started searching for a new apartment. It didn't take long to find a studio across town that was within my budget. It wasn't as spacious, but it was mine. Completely mine. I signed the lease that same week and began packing my things in secret. Vanessa barely noticed. She was so preoccupied with her freelancing gigs and scrolling on her phone that she didn't even question why I was spending so much time in my room. Little did she know, I was boxing up my life and planning my escape. On the morning of my move, I waited until Vanessa had left for the gym before loading my boxes into a moving van. By the time she returned, the only things left in the apartment were a note and my spare key. The note read, "Vanessa, I can't live with someone who disrespects me and my boundaries. Renting out my room on Airbnb without my permission was a huge violation of trust. I've moved out, and the lease is now your responsibility. Consider this a lesson in treating people with respect, Elena." I left the key on the counter and walked out the door, feeling a strange mix of anger, sadness, and relief. Vanessa's reaction came later that evening in the form of a dozen frantic text messages. "Elena, are you serious? You can't just leave me with the lease. Where are you? Come back so we can talk. This is so unfair. How am I supposed to pay the rent by myself?" I didn't respond. She had made her bed, literally, and now she had to lie in it. Over the next few weeks, I heard through mutual friends that Vanessa was struggling to keep up with the rent. Apparently, she tried to rent out both bedrooms on Airbnb to cover the costs, but the landlord found out and issued her a warning. Eventually, she was forced to move out too. As for me, life in my new studio apartment was peaceful. It was small, but it was mine. No more worrying about whether my roommate was sneaking strangers into my space. No more drama. Looking back, I realized that Vanessa's betrayal taught me a valuable lesson. Never compromise your peace for someone else's convenience. Boundaries matter, and when someone crosses them, you have every right to stand up for yourself, even if that means walking away. To everyone listening, remember this. You deserve to feel safe and respected in your own home. If someone violates that, don't be afraid to take action. Sometimes the best way to protect yourself is to leave toxic people behind. Thank you for listening to my story. Have you ever had a roommate from hell? Share your experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear how you dealt with it. Until next time, stay strong, stay true, and always value your peace.